Hello, and welcome to the podcast for human beings, meaningful conversations from human to human, sharing the ideas with deep understanding to find out who we truly are. Today, my guest, and my honor and pleasure to meet you and invite you to here is Thomas. Hello, Thomas.
Thank you.
Thomas Bothe, a leadership communication coach. It's a very interesting profession. I never heard that somewhere in any university there is a topic or studies that you can become a leadership communication coach.
Hmm.
So I'm very curious about your path, how you get there, because this is a subject never taught in any school, as far as I know. Although my kid now in the school which he is attending, they are paying a lot of attention to communication, conflict resolution, building dialogues, and etc. things. But we are not here to talk about my son. We are here to talk about education, about your experience, and as a trainer, as a father, as a wise man, to share the experience you have because you are teaching the leaders, the ones many parents are dreaming about that their kids are becoming leaders too. So let's start just with the simple your story, how you get to the point, why you choose to become a communication coach.
All right. Well, it's always good. Where do you start with these kind of things? How did I become a communication coach? I had a very bohemic life after when I was 18 for a long time. Just exploring the world, looking at cultures, assisting a journalist, investigative journalist. And later I got into management, just as would be expected that it would happen almost automatically. Normal problem, cannot be employed, want to be your own boss. Discover when you're a CEO, you're not at all your own boss. Different thing. Small investor for some time. I did that up until 2000. And this was management. And then I switched after kind of a midlife crisis. I switched over to being a communication coach, communication trainer. Actually, coach came later. Trainer is more instructive, training a skill, and a coach is more explorative, asking questions and help the person to discover what's already there. So it's slightly different. There was a very strong urge to do that. On the one hand, there was like a strong feeling, sense of mission in this area, definitely. At the same time, I didn't know where it came from. And I think, and this is always difficult, you can rationalize long time afterwards. You never know if it's really true. It's kind of a hypothesis, but it feels right to say that it came from an early age, and I had to... where I got in a family business with 70 truckers in a logistics business where the family basically was management and the truckers were the workers. I was very familiar with both sides. So at the dinner table, I listened to my family talking about management, talking about the drivers and very often just before they started off for the day, and in the evening, I was on this huge parking place, where this army of trucks was kind of arriving, and I was their mascot. I was just walking around. We're talking about 10 years of age. I was just walking around, and they really liked me, and I was kind of confident, but very quiet, always looking like this, And they taught me important things, and we became good friends. And I do remember, and I think I discovered it in a coaching session, where I was the coachee, that I at this time, I discovered essentially that both sides meant well, had ideas, and there was a strange mechanism which I discovered once, was that they very often agreed. They were very practical people, also the drivers, these were like immigrants from Yugoslavia, from Spain, from Italy, but they were the people who really wanted to work. So there was a lot of initiative and a lot of life in them. And when they had an idea, management had a tendency to say no before they even heard what was said. And even if they agreed, they didn't agree. And the same the other way around. It went both ways. And I just noticed this. There must be some strange mechanism why people cannot agree even though they agree. What the fuck is that? Really? And this started me off on it. It's not that I'm wanted to have agreement and harmony all the time. Not at all. It was no problem having confrontational situations. But when it's kind of obvious that they agree, and then they don't agree, and it takes time for the solution to be implemented, and it's heartbreaking because these mean well and they don't listen, and the other way around. It somehow became a mission, to sort out communication and make it workable for parts. So this is, it feels true. You never know if there are other things involved, or many other things. Yeah.
While you were describing the situation about these truck drivers and management, it's also similar in the schools between teachers and students.
Yeah.
It's absolutely the same. They are pretending that they are listening and understanding each other, but actually they are doing opposite things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But it was the opposite problem of what I had observed. They pretend to agree and then don't. What I observed was even more mad. They pretended to disagree even though they agreed. Can you imagine? Okay. The other phenomenon which you're describing, that exists also. But it makes more sense. The other one is really stupid. You actually agree and you pretend not to. And it's really annoying.
Although both sides are usually having the best intention they can have in that moment.
Yes, absolutely.
But this kind of things are happening. And it just the question arises then how we get as a human beings to that point that we are behaving like that. It is showing our intelligence level. It's just
okay, this is going out online.
But that's true. Actually, let's face it. It's so common in everyday life that people are driven by good intention and trying to protect their opinion so badly, so hardly that they are even making harm to other ones. Just because they don't have this ability to rise above their opinions and understand that there is something more, that opinion is just some mechanism which is made in your brain, let's say.
Yeah.
But you are not only your brain. You have values, you have beliefs, etc.
Yes.
Things, and
Yes.
and actually, there's also interesting physical moment that there is a Heart Math Institute. And they discovered that heart is sending to the brain 4 times more signals than receiving from the brain. And what's also interesting is that heart itself is the first organ which is developing when this human being is an embryo stage in a mother's womb. So heart and tongue are the first organs which are developing, not brain. It's not a question. I'm just sharing.
It's
sharing
an interesting thing.
The things about just to rise maybe this intelligence that we can have the conversations.
I think it's an important part. It makes sense. I wasn't aware of that, so it makes sense. It's interesting. You mentioned something before that was beliefs and values. I happen to be right now into that topic because I'm group coaching people who want to be not only successful but also fulfilled, and then you come into purpose and you come into mission statement and then you come into values and beliefs and all that. So I'm researching that right now, and it's really, really interesting.
So are there many people around who are in a real deep connection and they have real order in their values, that they understand what's important for them?
They don't have, and I don't have either. I mean, it's many values and many beliefs we have, and we don't even know we have them. In fact, we don't have them, they have us. And to make these beliefs workable in a practical sense, so you don't run into walls and all kinds of conflicts, you need to be aware what kind of beliefs you have. And that in itself is a real challenge. It's a real challenge. Once you understand what belief you have and where it comes from, you can look at it like from a helicopter view. You can keep it, you can dispense it, you can not dispense, discard it. You can change it a little bit. Can make it functional. You can make that belief and make it work in different contexts in a different way without compromising. You can do this, but you need to look at it from the top. You need to sit on the horse basically instead of being trampled by it. You know, belief can kind of kill you. Can you send you away like a mad soldier, in some direction, and you don't know why you're doing this. That I found very interesting. And the beliefs, they create the values. And out of that, then later comes a purpose and maybe a mission statement in life and all that. And this was really interesting. So, because back to the communication, what it taught me is if you talk to someone who does seem to violate your beliefs or your values, it doesn't matter how true it is what the person says. You cannot take it because the pure phenomenon of this person existing, violating your beliefs, creates a worst case scenario in case you accept what that person says. And it makes it almost dangerous if you accept what that person. And this is how you come into this weird situation why somebody says, 2 and 2 is 4 and says, no, it is 6. And, and you get these mad discussions. And that was a kind of an amazing discovery. It's quite a recent one that this actually plays in. So I find that fascinating.
It seems the communication actually is a very deep and huge topic, which for now, as far as I know, it's not properly evaluated.
No, it's not. It's true. It's true. Well, what I'm training in, I know we're not going into this, but it's an important thing. An individual can impact that. So if you have a person in front of you, looks at you and sees in you an enemy because of his beliefs, just must be an enemy because, whatever.
Because you think differently, of course. You're an enemy.
Yeah, that's good enough. But even if you agree, that's really the most annoying, is that, let me see. If you have that person who has some kind of belief, so the person thinks by default, assumes there must be something wrong with you, therefore it's not good to listen, even if the person just repeats what I just said, you can actually, as a person, influence that. You can influence in a way that you by personal power, whatever you say, you create a safe space where the person instantly feels safe and not triggered by your persona that happens to be in conflict with their beliefs. You can step out of that movie that is in their head by being safe, just by being safe. And this is something every individual needs to learn himself. listening, asking questions, being interested. If somebody says something, they say, yes, but you say yes, and tell me more. I want to understand. So there are many things that are not just tricks, but it's actually creating a space where you actually get both people stepping out of their movie. And if you can hold that space just for a minute or so, then the quality of the communication changes dramatically. And how to do that can be trained. And I'm good at it. Yeah.
It's while you were talking, it is making me the feeling is that you are explaining something so actually natural that we naturally have as a kids, but then somehow we are trained not to listen ourselves and with the respect to ourselves, and then you can respect other ones. But uh, during the school years, you are evaluated so many times from so many different people who are proving are you legit or are you not legit person, and then
and then you do the same thing to others because it's done to you all the time.
yes, because it's always you are feeling yourself threatened and dangerous, like in a danger, because if that person who has at that moment more power than you have will not accept you as you are in a real danger,
Yes.
like a
In a
human
sense, yeah.
being.
And then people, like the children, cope with it somehow. Some become rebellious, some become kind of like sheep, some no longer trust their own perception, just listen to what authority says. Some become manipulative. There's all kinds of coping mechanisms. And the one coping mechanism that tends to work most in the environment you tend to bring to life, for later life.
And when you were going to school, what is the the fundamentals of your being, why you didn't get in that trap? It seems that you haven't been there.
I did
Or
get into it also.
Yeah.
I did get into it also.
How you get over it?
I emigrated at the age of 18 and went into a completely cultural different space. That helped a lot. It's like a holiday, a prolonged holiday. So I think that was one of the things. And I have noticed people who have changed cultural space at a let's say early age have a more conscious relation to both their own and the new culture. It seems like it. More conscious in general. Not always true, but of course. And the reason for that is that when you grow up in a culture, it's just totally obvious to you this is how you should do. And this is the ethics codes in that culture. And then you come to another culture and maybe 4 of these overlap, but not all. And the one where it doesn't overlap, you run into trouble in the new culture. And when you run into trouble, you need to think about it. When you need to think about it, your old coping mechanisms come in. And fortunately, my coping mechanism was being curious, to shut up, and to look. That was my thing. So if I got into trouble, all I did is just locked up and I stared at whoever is trying to get me into trouble. and studied like a cat almost, I studied it. What is going on with them? What is going on? It didn't make it better. They got even more crazy. But this was somehow, this was my coping mechanism. And I applied this later and I think it's served me well.
Okay. So by having this coping mechanism is the way also you are creating your own beliefs, which then afterwards are guiding you?
This whole belief thing is something pretty recent. I cannot say I have done this systematically, no. But I have followed Immanuel Kant's old dictum to dare to use your own mind. And that was also backed up in the family. Maybe not because they did read Kant, but use your own mind. And if you're wrong, yeah, shit happens. Face up to it if you are, and that's all.
So that it is something in your fundamental, because of your family have this, let's say, belief that by using your own mind, you can get out from any troubles.
There is a very strong belief, a very strong conviction that I can get out of anything if I'm in it and don't want to be there, but I can get out of it using my own mind, my own personal sense making. Not using what is normal or what is mandated or what is, just use your own mind. And yes, can I therefore create my own beliefs? Yeah. I guess, yes. I guess. Yeah, more than other. The thing is when you force yourself to do your own sense making, you need to look at stuff which constantly need to look at stuff which you haven't looked at before. It just forces you because world changes and there's something new and you need to explore something. This becomes kind of part of the thing. And making your own sense making forces you to regularly get out of autopilot. Right? Because if you do your own sense making and you have done it and then you kind of put it on a track and you just go with that understanding, this only holds up so long. Sooner or later you're running into a wall. Sooner or later you're going to stumble with that whatever belief or assumption about life. Sooner or later you will. And before you could run with one belief in my life, now I could run with it, let's say, for 5 years. And it was good enough before I ran into a wall. And into a wall doesn't mean burned out or so. It just ran into a wall and said, okay, it really got me into trouble, which I shouldn't be. And what I have noticed, which is actually a fun phenomenon with age, these periods, how long I can run with one beliefs, they actually get shorter and shorter.
Or maybe you become a better learner, it doesn't take anymore so
It's
long
actually,
time.
it's the yeah, exactly. Before I thought, I was dead certain about certain things, and this certainty, it worked out for 10 years or 5 years, And now, every time I'm really certain about things, I can be totally certain about something with the full knowledge that tomorrow it might be the exact opposite.
It's so beautiful to be aware of. I am calling them your inner mental solid constructions. Those beliefs which
exactly.
you are.
And the weird thing is, the shorter these cycles become, you could think, this is bad for your self-confidence. And I actually noticed it's good for your self-confidence because it's no longer based on on some knowledge or something, which is outdated tomorrow anyway. It's different. It's the constant exploring is where the self-confidence comes from. Being good at that.
It becomes more rooted,
more rooted.
That feeling. It's not from that some construction which can be damaged or rebuilt or whatever, but there you are finding something inner, something different.
You get
self-esteem.
Somehow you get to that point. I think every human being is on the one hand, there is something eternal about it. Something is timeless, it never changes, but it is not physical. And then you have the biological part. And these two are not too compatible. And they actually have completely different laws, completely different ways in how they operate. And when you are aware of that, and you can kind of switch between them, life becomes a lot more pleasant. You don't resist it. You don't resist change, and you don't resist.
It's a
Okay, this is
it's a beautiful, deep thing, and it's a very important thing. And I'm happy that we touched also this topic, and not just talk about in the mind levels and you see how smart and good I am or something like that, but to touch real um, deepness of every human being,
yeah.
because it's so obvious that we are so different.
Hmm.
And if I look around, that when you see what people are buying the most or looking for the most, they're looking not for how to start to use their own brain, like you said, and figure out and believe that you can figure out any situation you are in, but they are searching for scripts, for algorithms, tell me what to do, and so on. And by this, there is also a measurement of level of happiness,
Hmm.
and this level of happiness is increasing. No, decreasing, like
Decreasing.
becoming slower. Sorry about my English,
Hmm.
but still. So, why I'm bringing this up is because my suspicious, suspicions, yeah, okay, are about
You,
the
you
school
probably think it's an
system.
hypothesis. When you say you're suspicious, it's probably a hypothesis. It's kind of,
Hypothesis, yes, yes.
it sounds fancier.
Sounds okay. I will be more fancier. So the hypothesis is
Yes.
that if kids
Hmm.
are taught just follow the rules, color in lines, and wait for next order, and nobody's. I can't say nobody. There are great teachers around. I know a lot of them, but they are really fighting the system.
Yeah.
To be true, actually, to be honest. And so this is one of the reasons why people are unhappy. So many people are unhappy just because they are afraid to use their own mind.
Yes. Yes, I agree. Yeah, if in order to get out of that, you need to, on the one hand, understand that the system is kind of you're between a rock and a hard place, and it's kind of squeezing you and trying to condition you to function in the system. But when you only do that, becoming aware of that, there's one thing that happens, that is that you become very rebellious, worst case, maybe criminal. And you just, if it's good, you become an entrepreneur or something like that. But if you want to move out of the bad feelings about this, and just instead of being in a state of protest all the time because there is a system and I'm in it and I somehow need to adapt, you need to find ways how to understand and have empathy for the system. Now, that sounds really weird, but fact is the system, to some degree, maybe to a large degree, has provided the resources for the freedoms we have. To some degree, it does. And before you can recognize it, you just hate the system. So this is it does not mean it should not be improved. It does not mean that you should conform. It does not mean all these things. But it does help to understand some good intention behind it, and even show some gratitude to it, to some degree. That helps if you want to change it, rather than just resist it. Now, of course, it took me, I don't know, 5 decades to understand that, but it's
It's very deep,
and
and for me, it is a very important topic, because when I am talking about my vision or point of view, which often is it's not against system. It's just the way that maybe it can be different, and then I am getting into troubles because the system, or those who are protecting the system, thinking is feeling like I am making a revolution and I'm against the system, but I'm not. It's just what is coming in my mind. When you are buying new boots, Let's say the system is boots. For now, this is very good. We had times of industrial times and so on. The system built was perfectly designed for that period of time. And if you compare it to boots, so they were new, fresh, very comfortable. We could walk miles with those boots. But time passed, and those boots are starting to get uncomfortable, old. Maybe your feet grow, and while are you fixing the boots? It's just nothing happening good. Actually, you just can say, okay, so far it was very good. Thank you, the boots. I will
You
go.
give it back. You know?
Give it
Okay.
back. I will need the new ones because there is a new age and we have new and other tasks here to develop to understand that we are not only our brains or only our bodies. Okay, we have soul, we have heart, we have so many things. We have experience, we have beliefs from where they came. Those beliefs. Maybe you know
From where they come?
Yes.
Beliefs usually come from experiences, good, bad experiences, trauma, successes, cultural influences. At a certain age, when you were very receptive, maybe you have some idea about some hero journey as a child, you know, where you want to go, and there are parts of what you see outside that seems to help your hero journey. Then maybe it turns out it was fake, it was all wrong, but maybe not. I don't know yet where all the beliefs come from. But if I would say one word, experiences. All
Okay.
kinds of experiences. And a way how to cope with them. And when you are aware how you create your beliefs, you can be... Beliefs are very powerful. They provide a foundational drive. Values also, purposes, you know. This is kind of drive. This is why we live and all that. And if this drive is not known, if it is kind of implanted or you accepted it while it didn't look, kind of it just went into your system, they run you. This is how far my hypothesis goes so far. You know. This is what I suspect how it works. And you just need to get on top of it. I forgot your question.
It's from where the beliefs are
From
coming.
where they come.
Is-
One word I would say experiences. If you have to say it in one word. And there's good, bad, all kinds of things.
So now we have this understanding that actually your life, how well you are in your life, is driven by the beliefs you have, the values you are taking care of, and etc. In there was no any moment where you or me mentioned knowledge, like knowledge itself, because schools are tend to give only the knowledge. But the real skills you need to get to be successful in life, it's not about knowledge.
It is about knowledge also, but in the sequence of what creates action and the intentionality and what the person wants to do, knowledge comes late. First you have the beliefs, and then you have the values, and they decide what knowledge you take in. This is where I can have a feeling that people, you know, who should understand, don't. There's certain things they just can't take in because it seems to not match their beliefs and their values. It doesn't get in. It drops off like water on a duck, you know, it just doesn't go in. So knowledge is important, but it's coming late.
At what age it becomes important?
I don't think it's really age. In the best of all worlds, which of course will never be achieved, but in the best of all worlds, you would be totally aware of your beliefs, totally aware of your values, and you would choose and know to be open for other knowledge, not be fixated on certain things, on beliefs and values. Be fluid. Like, yeah, be water, my friend, this martial artist said, Bruce Lee, be like water, my friend. So anyway, the most of the knowledge in school is to make you function, okay? Just to make you function, so you can work and function in the system. That's not too bad, because it's maybe better than not functioning in the system. You just get boom, 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 and it just never get on top of the horse somehow. So when you need to function in a system, it's a closed system. And in a closed system, there's a lot of right and wrong. Okay? So, for example, if you're a service technician for an airplane, it's a closed system. When you need to make sure that this airplane now, and it's -5 degrees and the wings are full with snow and all that, you just want to know that this service technician doesn't have any bullshit in his mind, and is just about brainstorming. Let's test how it works if you only clean one wing, would be interesting to see. Does it go in circles? You don't want that. So you actually want him to function, and just shut up. But as a human being, if you only trained for a certain function, you're kind of in closed loops of right and wrong. And you just want to conform to it. As a human being, it's a bigger thing. And that part of the education is either neglected or unfortunately perverted. Like perverted in the sense that it doesn't provide any useful information. It just turns people into some ideological soldiers or it doesn't really free them.
So the knowledge should serve you that you can free your true being, your true essence in an intelligent way. Because knowledge itself without intelligence, like erudition, or how to say erudition.
Education, knowledge without...
Only knowing without this intelligence to understand how you can use your knowledge is useless.
Yes. Useless. I grade it in knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is something that is outside you. You can put it on a hard disk, you can put it in the cloud, you can put it anywhere in a book. That's knowledge. You can read it, and it's kind of in your mind, like a piece of paper, it's just working, but it's not integrated. And when it becomes integrated, in the sense that understanding, you can make it work, you can integrate it, and only humans can do this. Artificial intelligence cannot understand stuff really. It can just repeat word bubbles in a very good way, because there's a sea of potential understanding there, but it's always a human needs to turn it into understanding. And the conversion from knowledge to understanding, it's I would say similar, like knowledge is like a recipe, maybe even the food, while understanding is digested food. This is how I would compare it. And what I think children should be encouraged to learn is to do exactly that, turn knowledge into an operational understanding for themselves. So how does this work? This is, I think, why a Montessori or maybe Waldorf schools, where you have this physical touch with reality, and the space that is being created for experimentation, for exploration, where you don't just read and repeat something, but it says, you discover something, you can repeat it, and sometimes the whole chemistry is blowing up in your face and all that. So the conversion to understanding, which creates personal sense making, which creates daring to use your own mind. Everything comes with that. So personally, I think schools should be an exploration possibility to explore, so that you gain confidence in using your own mind and taking your own responsibility. Every individual.
Very beautifully said. You having confidence to using your own mind.
Yes.
This you could call is a purpose of education itself.
I think that is really it. Yes.
Because I was read somewhere that at least here in Latvia, under this word education, we are understanding the very this word in a very shallow or narrow way.
Mhm.
That actually it have this real meaning. So if you could describe what education means to you.
To me means two things. It's a Latin word, education. It means basically lead out. E means out, and education, yeah, it's the phenomenon of leading someone out. And then the question is, what does out mean? And I think it means ignorance. I think it means dependency. I think it means addiction. It just irresponsibility. All these kind of things. So leading out of, like, the umbrella term would be ignorance. It's just being stupid, just stumbling through life somehow, Not just for a few days or a few weeks, which is normal, but constantly, and being pushed around like a ping pong ball, or a squash ball, and what is happening, just completely disoriented, and then just doing what somebody tells you because that punishes you the least, That is not really life. And it doesn't matter how good it looks, and it doesn't even matter how well you're paid. It's not the point, So education is leading out. So that's one thing. And then the second thing, there's an old, let me see, Latin or Greek, I'm not quite sure, who said it very well. It's education is not about filling a glass of water with knowledge, but it's lighting a fire. So getting children wanting to explore. This is kind of my personal slant on what education is. Not just leading out of ignorance, but providing the self-confidence.
That this path out of this ignorance is designed by the kids' inner interest.
Exactly, by the inner interest. Because if you lose that, leading out becomes only, do this and do that. And it doesn't even matter. Even if what the index finger says, is right. It's not the point. The kid needs to discover it. And you need to create the circumstances so you can discover it. Because there's a difference like day and night if the kid discovers it, this is whatever is right, or if he's told and has to do it. It's just, it's like day and night. It's almost better you tell him something half right if you can discover it. It has more value. I see it in people, how resilient they are. Even if they're half wrong, it's not the point, You will learn, you will discover, we'll constantly learn.
There is one very important, there's thin ice on it because
Yes.
I have seen a lot of parents doing this, and I have done it also by myself. When you are knowing the right answer, but you are trying to be a good parent and not to say the right answer, you are asking the questions, but like waiting when you will say the right answer, and this is actually violence to the kid. You are not creating the space and not allowing him to make mistakes. So there's it's a huge again, it's a big topic to talk about parentinghood and this stuff. But I wanted to ask your opinion about, there are numbers which are showing that children very early get depressed and losing motivation. The suicide rates are rising. Even I recently read that 10 years old boy got so deep depression that he is forced to use antidepressants pills.
Which doesn't make it better.
Yes, and the adults are looking at it and just following the instructions again. Why it is so?
I think this is so obvious to me. It is. It's horrible to say. If you and maybe I change my mind about it tomorrow. It's not likely. Okay, I think every human being has a natural tendency wanting to contribute, not be contributed to. That is important, like for a certain stage of your life, first year or so. But what I have noticed, among other things, with my own kids, at a very early time, they just want to contribute. And if they can contribute, they are happy, they're shining, they're proud, they feel part of something. And if you see your job as a parent to just keep them safe, somehow safe spaces and don't get offended. I know. If that kind of thing you do, they become care packages. I don't think human beings are designed to be care packages. If anything, they are hunters, they are farmers. You are designed to do something with your life. You're not designed to be done. You're designed to do. Okay.
You will be allowed to do when you get at 18 years old.
Exactly. When you're 18 years old, then you can do something. We'll see, and then. So there must be a meaning in life, and the meaning does not necessarily come from inside. It's actually life needs to ask you to do things. You need to feel. You need to have a feeling that you're useful, and it is so difficult to see, especially with smaller kids. Okay, do I have time for a short story where I made a big fuck up as a father? Okay.
Take your time.
All right. When my two sons were born, I was actually in economic difficulties because I completely changed my operating basis. I was traveling, I was very successful, and then I met my wife and we were married immediately, and we were in one place, and I had an idea as a father, okay, I need a house and blah, blah, blah. And I lost my income, and I didn't think of that. I think I could recreate it even if I'm in one place, but it didn't work because all my operating basis was traveling all the time. So I was in economic difficulties at some time, and I was stressed like hell. And we had two kids. For some time, for half a year, I took care of one, and she took care of the other one. Right? So far, so good. So I had care of one, and he was that age where you kind of still with difficulties kind of climb on a chair, and you still walk a little bit kind of wobbly, it must be 2 years, something like that. So one morning, I smoked a lot at the time, heavy smoker. One morning, I wake up, Sunday morning, I look down and I had a kind of sun was shining in, and from all the smoke, I kind of, I felt sticky in my face, I just felt shit, really shit. So I looked into the kitchen, which was about 10 meters away, and I see my son had climbed up on a chair and was leaning on the kitchen table. And on the kitchen table was an ashtray. And there were my cigarettes. And I was just looking at him, and feeling shit, having smoked a pack of cigarettes the day before. And I saw him slowly and methodically pulling out cigarettes out of the cigarette box and put them into the ashtray and squeezing them in the ashtray, And I couldn't believe it. I was just looking, and I saw one cigarette, and I saw the next cigarette. And I, what the fuck is he doing? He's destroying my cigarettes. So I shouted at him, I said, stop it! And he was shocked a little bit. And then he turned around, he looked at me, and he kind of went down from his chair and walked away and looked very disappointed. That was like a really, really weird, And what was visible is like he has very blue eyes. And these eyes are, they are like, studio lights, like it's not just blue eyes.
Like
no, it's kind of, it's like, ooh, it's like reaching out at you when you look at him. And when he had that from birth, I just looked at him, whoa, and when I shouted at him and he stopped doing this, he looked at me, and this light was off, just completely off, just this milky kind of, depressed is too much, but it just was switched off. Disappointed. So at the time, I thought it's perfectly fine to tell him to not destroy my cigarettes and all that. But it somehow haunted me, what was that? Why was he looking happy while he was destroying my cigarettes? And unhappy when he stopped doing it, when I shouted at him. Why was that? And then I shortly tried this one idea, maybe it's just for 1 second it crossed my mind. Maybe he's evil and he just looks most happy when he can do something that is against me, But it was just too stupid. So I lost the thought, after a second. I just tested it quickly. I said, no, that's not. So it took 2 or 3 months until I realized what had happened. And when it hit me like when a horse hits a ding. What he had tried to do, he had observed me smoking and destroying the rest of the cigarette in the ashtray. And Sunday morning, he could see, I wasn't in good shape, so why not help Dad a little bit with the job he seems to have all day? Destroying cigarettes, Of course, it didn't make sense at all. But this is what sense do you make as a 1-2-year-old? You just mimicry. So he thought, I'm so busy and probably, this kind of thing. So let's help him so he feels better. So I just suddenly realized he tried to contribute and I couldn't see it. And I was too busy with myself and my own stress and economics and just being an asshole and smoking, whatever. I just did not have the empathic resources to even be close to understand it. And it took me 3 months to understand it. And after that, I was much more careful letting him contribute. And doing the dishes, usually the kitchen looked like a mess, but it doesn't matter, Let him contribute and correct a little bit. And I noticed this with him, and I noticed with other children, and then I noticed this actually with everybody. So whatever stupid things people are doing, I'm really looking for the intention. What are they trying to do with this? And usually, I would say 99%, if not 100, there's a very good intention behind it, and they just don't know how to implement it in a good way. But if you get in touch with that intention, this is so beautiful. And then you can, instead of fighting people, you can dance with them, in a sense. So that was, and I do remember when I realized this about him, and I was already in an executive or in a management position at the time, I realized that I had done this very often, also with adults, and it just, when I realized it with him, I saw 10 other people, click, 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 where I had done exactly the same thing. Punishing somebody without recognizing what they actually tried to do. So it made me a little better manager and a little better.
Thank you for sharing so deep story, and so that this ability to step in
It is. It
other
is. It
shoes.
still hurts
other
today. I don't know why. It still hurts. Oh, I notice it when I talk about it. Sorry.
It's thank you for saying this. It is very important because that means this is something very, very live and yeah. Okay, let's not get
Okay.
go into it so deep. But the importance of this is pointing out the importance of stepping into another shoes, even also in your kid's shoes, to try to understand why uh, he's doing what he is doing, and this brightness of eyes of the kids is so vivid.
Yes.
There's so much life in it, and this is something what is making me cry when I see that kids are starting to losing this light in their eyes. Their eyes are becoming like foggy or without this deep shine. This oh, I'm here to do something, to contribute
Yes, yes.
to. And yeah, for me, it's also I am always like checking also for my kids. Are their eyes are still shining, and this is painful for me as a parent when I have seen that the eyes of my kids are becoming foggy. And then for me, it's an important thing to get it back that they are shining and figure this out why it is happening. And what I have noticed that this ability to look in each other's eyes is it is very important for I would suggest for every parent to develop this skill to look in kids' eyes. I have seen a lot of people, grown people who have children, they cannot look in each other's eyes because it's painful to don't see this brightness of kids' eyes. If it's very painful.
It is painful as hell, you know. So you even try to avoid it, and you try to run away from it, or looking away is also a coping mechanism for parents. The problem is if they try to be brave and solve it, they do it in the wrong way. And the way how they solve it is to give things to the kid. You know, oh, maybe you get happy if you can have a chocolate, if you can have this car, or you can have this bicycle or something. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving them bicycles. That's not the point. But that deadness that you see in children's eyes or in adults' lives has nothing to do with if you have enough stuff. It has to do if you have a purpose or not. If life feels meaningful or meaningless, that is the point. And the way you can put the shine back in the kids' eyes is to, in a believable way, let them contribute and then not interrupt them too much in it. And then they will develop pride in the way they contribute, and they feel strong and becoming independent and all these kind of things. You know. And this is how you put it, but not by giving them stuff that actually makes it worse, you know, to some degree.
This feels like it should be in a natural way, like
Yes.
nature created us. When you think about it, you visualize it. It feels so vivid. It feels so natural. Not this 40 minutes of subject listening, one teacher in front of the classroom, and then 5 minutes break, and then another one, and then another one, and it's how they are spending their days. And then once my daughter asked me, I don't understand why I have to know the length of the river which is in China, that in front of my name in some web page will appear some number or a letter. Why? And I am answering, I don't know why. It's the requirements and then so on. So how to find this balance. And about finding this balance, that actually there is a lot of ways how to provide education, and it's not the only one is the best, but actually it's a variety of models, of education models. And I encourage everybody to find their own model which fits their family values and family rhythm and many different ways. So in the 17th of May will happen the Forum for
Yes.
Human Beings, where we will dive into the topic of modern and meaningful education. There will be specialists who are working in this field and with the kids and from different type of schools and anthropologists, and also we will touch the topics about future, what's important, because there is a saying that in the future will exist professions which we are not familiar with right now, and this will develop very, very soon. So what is the exact knowledge we should provide for kids, or maybe it's not the knowledge, maybe it's a skill, how they can gain the necessary knowledge they need to fulfill their inner needs. So, and Thomas, you are one of the speakers of this great event, and also you will provide a workshop for parents. Give some slight view of
The workshop part is about how to manage learners. It is designed for management, but it is applicable to anyone.
for parents, for teachers,
For
everyone.
parents, for teachers, for anyone. And it's essentially about skill stages. You know, when somebody, you need to lead people in an adaptive way so that they can get through a certain skill stage, whatever it is. And if you understand that system, you become very fluid in your leadership, no matter what kind of skill you have in front of you, skill or sub-skill, become very fluid. So I want to introduce that because it makes parents, I think, much more wiser, I would say. And I define smart is when you figure out what to do in a good way. Wise is when you can not interfere in an intelligent way. Oh, that sounds academic, you know. Wisdom is a lot about not meddling, not kind of fucking it up with your ideas. Just let the process happen. But you need to see, you need to understand the process so you do not have this constant compulsion to needing to change something in what is happening. You can just, these are living things, you know. It's not like a watch that doesn't work. You know, it's a living thing and it has an automatic process how it learns. And wisdom is a lot about just not interfering, you know, just get out of the way. You know, this one part. Or listening or observing. So there is one or two skills which I would want parents to get more familiar with. You know, many have it already and all that, but I call them deep skills. They're not just social or soft skills. They're deep skills. And one of them, very funny, is actually asking a question without knowing the answer. This is not a kind of sentence where you think, what is he talking about? It's actually very real. Asking a question and being completely open to any result. Just that. And being happy about the result. And if you can do this together with kids, it's fun. Maybe you're 30 years old, 35, whatever your age is. You have your kid there is 3, 4 years old. And if you see them as fellow travelers through life, you know, you have worked for 30 years and he's worked for 3 years. And right now we happen to be together and you have a genuine conversation with the spirit there about what he or she happens to see right now. And you're totally open to what that little person discovers. And when you can get into that mode, not just pretend because you know the kid feels good because it gets attention and all that cheap bullshit. No, like real interest. And then suddenly you discover that a 3-year-old life traveler can tell you things, you know, which you haven't thought of for a while, you know, maybe never thought of. So it actually becomes interesting and not just a duty to do so. So this is just one, that 2 or 3 other skills which I want to discuss, which are actually learnable or which are rememberable, and you had it and you just need to remember, and then you can do it again. And we make a few exercises to illustrate that, so you can get into that feeling again. So this is what my workshop is about.
And it's designed by you.
Yes.
This is your invention, this
Yes,
spiral
yes.
of learning. Okay, good, nice. And it's there is a saying in English, connect before correct.
Yeah.
And this what you are talking about is make this connection before with kid or whatever before you are teaching to them something or wanting to correct them or some. And again, my hypothesis or observation is that you are able to make this connection only when you are connected also with your deep self.
Of course.
If you are not connected, you can try to pretend a good parent and make all these environments and all that. It will just will not work.
Yes. Yeah.
But to make this connection, you have maintained the connection also with your inner kid.
Yes. Absolutely. And actually, the kid can help you to get back to that connection. What you need to do is you need to allocate quality time. And you need to know what quality time means, because nobody's going to give it to you at that time. You just need to carve it out. And then just, you have this busy life, and then you just need to kind of switch and, okay, I'm here now. And you need to protect that space from everything. And then you can get the fruits of that. This busy kind of mindset prevents you totally from getting into that connection. So you need to carve out that space. And in the beginning, when you have carved it out, you don't know what to do with that space. And maybe you get bored and all kinds of things. But protect that space, you will find out what to do. Just hold that space. Hold that time window with the quality time.
How often it should happen, this quality time? Once a day, once a week, once in a month?
I don't know. Ideally, 24 hours, 24/7. Ideally, because you have the same with everybody. In reality, you have so many external forces, factors on you. It's really difficult. This is why you have to work and then you go on holiday, which is also a ridiculous concept, or work-life balance. If work is not life, what then is it for? So there is some weird concepts around. But if you look at reality, young parents, economics, having bought a horse, having a house, a mortgage, career, all kinds of things, we need to be real. This is what it looks like. So if nothing else, carve out half an hour for a start a day. And if you cannot carve out half an hour a day, you shouldn't have kids at all. But anyway, there is nobody who can't. This is really a matter of what do you want. It's like when you tell somebody you need to meditate 2 minutes a day and he says, I don't have time. It's just no. It's bullshit.
Then you don't want it, actually.
Yeah, you don't want it. So you need to carve out the time. Nobody's going to give it. And all you can say is will be huge rewards if you stick with it.
So don't wait for somebody to come from out their world and say, now you have time for your kid.
It will not happen.
It will not happen. You just take it on your own
you
hands.
Need to take it, yes.
And this is advice from you to the parents. Have this at least half hour in a day.
Who has made all the mistakes that you can make as a father. So was no better at the time.
Yeah, but you have a good relationship with your kids. And as far as I know, also you didn't had any big problems when they had this middle age or teenage years. Yes. So.
Yeah, they didn't protest. They didn't hate me. They didn't want me to stay away from their friends, all this kind of stuff. My home at the time was like a train station for difficult kids coming to my place. So it was like a big retreat.
I have thought also about it, how it has happened. You don't have to be a perfect parent to maintain a good relationship with your kids. You just have to be true. And when you are making mistake, you go and apologize.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry. I didn't meant to be like that. So stop pretending. Just be real.
Yeah, exactly. Or just just say, okay, that was a mistake.
How do I fix that?
Yeah, and when
Good.
my sons, every time I say that, he says, "Yeah, that was stupid," and we go on. But they're
So beautiful.
35 now, so we can joke about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thomas, thank you for being my guest and sharing your experience, your
You're
thoughts,
welcome. It's great
and
fun.
your stories. And it is giving a good impact. And I'm so grateful to have to know you. So thank you, and meet you in 17th of May in the forum.
Yes.
And yeah, maybe there's some another ways how people can meet you. Some webpage, something. LinkedIn. LinkedIn, Thomas Bothe, at least.
Let's LinkedIn is simplest. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And,
Okay.
and you, whatever you do with the 17th of May, continue making podcasts. It's fun talking to you.
Okay, good. And also you have a book. Yes? 2 books. Or how many books you have?
I have 2
written?
books and I'm not happy with them, but I'm rewriting them.
Okay, so
Then don't ask me for deadline. I hate it.
while you're reading this 3rd book, so people can find your in putting trust in your leadership communication.
Create trust in your
Yes.
leadership.
Create trust in your leadership. Sorry. Okay, so create trust in your leadership, and see you on next podcast for human beings, meaningful conversations, and see you on 17th of May in a live event. And yeah, just try to be the best human being who you are, and be happy.
All right.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye.